She was a single mother who was no stranger to hard work.
She loved her children. They were the top of her world.
She was a very, determined person. She was one of those people that's gonna work hard.
And when she finally found the time for love, she dove in head first.
Despite the pace that their relationship was moving, her family was very supportive.
She wanted a marriage. I was happy for her.
But when an unidentified body is found in a rural part of town, it sends this family spinning into tragedy.
I was just like, that has to be my mother.
I see pictures of my mom laying in the ditch.
In their search for answers, detectives uncover a fractured relationship that was splitting at the seams.
I said, well, once you just get out of it, just leave.
She began to explore relationships with women.
He does have a girlfriend that she was not aware of.
She had no idea they had a wife.
He actually sent a sexual picture to her.
With a killer this heartless, will the family ever see justice served?
There are no eyewitnesses to this case.
The case goes cold.
Are y'all gonna even find out what's going on, or do y'all care?
The entire timeline was wrong.
Don't ever give up, because when you give up, that's when you lose.
February 12th, 2016. It's Friday afternoon in Jonesboro, Arkansas, a charming college town with southern flair.
Jonesboro is not that far from Memphis.
We have a university here, Arkansas State University. There's a lot of sports, there's a lot of football.
It is a growing city. There's a lot to do here, but also with a growing town, there is growing crime.
And around 5 p.m., one Jonesboro resident will come face to face with just that.
A man was taking a walk kind of north and east of Industrial Park and decided to take a shortcut. And as he's walking, he sees something in the ditch.
As he walked closer, he noticed that it was a woman wearing bright pink sweatpants, face down.
Ma'am, are you okay?
However, it's soon clear the woman is beyond helping.
He noticed that the woman is not breathing.
She appeared to be deceased.
Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God.
He immediately called 911.
Yeah, I think I just found a dead body.
Once law enforcement arrived at the intersection where the body was found, they cordoned it off and they began a forensic investigation.
There didn't appear to be any obvious signs of trauma that would lead someone to make a definitive cause of death at that point.
They did not observe any what I would call defensive injuries. She had a small amount of blood coming from her nose, and some was on her hand, which was underneath her face.
Investigators suspect the victim was killed elsewhere before she was brought here.
It was a muddy area. There was no mud on the back of her clothing or even on the bottom of her shoes, but yet there was some found on the front. It appears her body was dragged into this ditch.
But who is she?
They spanned out to look for additional evidence in that area.
They didn't notice any purse, any valuables, nothing to give them a clue of who this woman was.
Her body was transported to the medical examiner's office. She had what we call a broken hyoid, which indicates right away to me that there was some force applied to the neck.
The manner of death was ruled a homicide, and it was by strangulation.
Based on the rate of decomposition, the medical examiner believed that the victim had been dead at least 24 hours before the police found her.
Back at the station, investigators begin blasting the limited details they know about their victim through the local news.
They had hoped that someone watching would recognize the victim's description and could help them unravel what had happened.
And the following morning, one family's life is forever changed.
I was scrolling on Facebook and I have the Jonesboro News on my Facebook. So I'm reading this article that they had about a woman who had a few tattoos and she had like thinning hair at the top of her head.
Imani's heart drops.
I hadn't heard from my mom in, a few days, and that's something that she always said was, my hair's starting to thin at the top, and I was just like, that has to be my mother.
Imani immediately calls her brother, Emmanuel Allen.
At that time, I was living in Chicago, so I'm like, you need to hurry up and go see if this is her because I'm not there and it has to be the next of kin who can identify the body.
Please, Emmanuel, I have a really bad feeling about this.
Emmanuel assumes his sister is overreacting.
And the first thing I tell her is, you don't know what you're talking about. She's not dead. Like, mom's not dead. I just talked to my mom yesterday.
But there's no way that's her.
And I'm just like, you still need to go see if it's her because it sounds like her.
All right, you know what?
So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna come to the police station and I'm gonna come view the body because of y'all, everybody's tripping out right now. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about.
All right.
Emmanuel arrives at the police station accompanied by his mother's friend, Ebony.
I'm just like, hey, just show me what y'all gotta show me. I'm telling y'all my mom's not dead.
And it's gonna be pretty graphic. I want you to prepare yourself.
So I open up the folder and I see pictures of my mom laying in the ditch.
Oh my God. I gotta go.
My mom was dead.
Stacy Griffin had a bright smile and an even more glowing personality.
My mom she was a very happy person. Every time you see my mom, you see her smile.
She was very friendly. I feel like she made friends everywhere she went.
You just walk in the house, she in there dancing to music. She'll make you smile, make you laugh. She always joking. That's how she was.
But nothing mattered more to Stacy than her two children, Emmanuel and Imani.
She loved her children. They were the top of her world. If you had a Sunday, you could say her children were the cherry on the top.
She was a very good mother, just a loving woman and a powerful and strong woman.
As a single mother, Stacy worked hard to provide for her kids.
She was a very, determined person. She was one of those people that's gonna work hard.
She had 2 jobs, one at a factory and the other at a department store.
She worked at Nestle. She was a factory worker. She did work part-time at Dillard's. Anybody who knew Stacy knew that if she wasn't working, she was sleeping. She was definitely a workaholic.
It was at work in the spring of 2013 that Stacy attracted the attention of a coworker, 52-year-old Charles Devine.
May I join you?
Help yourself.
He was like a person always walking past her machine, talking to her all the time, flirting with her and stuff.
When you gonna let me take you out, girl?
There you go again.
Come on, yeah, you know I've been waiting.
She was just happy to meet somebody and really be courted. Just the small things that he did. I feel like she liked those things about him.
After just a few months of dating, Stacy and Charles married at the Jonesboro courthouse.
Despite the pace that their relationship was moving, her family was very supportive.
I was happy for her. She was very excited. She wanted to be loved. She wanted a marriage. She wanted, the relationship.
Charles and Stacy, they achieved the American dream. Got them a new brick home in a quiet part of Jonesboro, Arkansas, and just start living.
But 3 years later, the couple's American dream would turn into a nightmare.
Oh my God. I gotta go.
Her relatives identified her as the victim found in a roadside ditch on the outskirts of town.
I'm going to give you a minute. You can go get him if you need to.
Emmanuel was really, really affected by the loss of his mom.
He's out here.
Me and my mom's relationship, we were just like best friends, literally. So I hit my knees and I just prayed and I asked God, like, God, please, like, help me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do.
Investigators had to find out who did this, who destroyed this family.
After several years as a hardworking single mother, Stacy Griffin had finally gotten another chance at love.
In 2014, she married a coworker, Charles Devine, and she became Stacy Devine. They only dated a few months before tying the knot.
But when Stacy's lifeless body is found in a ditch on the outskirts of Jonesboro, it sends the small town into a tailspin.
After I found out that my mom was dead, I called my sister. That was the first person that I called.
When I received that phone call from my brother and I just heard him crying, it's like it took a piece out of me because it was so surreal. After that, I did make my way down to Jonesboro, Arkansas, to talk with the detectives.
As detectives wait on Imani to arrive from Chicago, they attempt to get more information from Stacy's devastated son.
They gave him some time to calm down before proceeding with the interview.
Okay. Let's just start with whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
They asked Emmanuel if there was anyone that his mother had been having issues with of late.
That's when Emmanuel mentions his mother's new husband, Charles.
Apparently, the couple hit a rough patch, and Stacy was planning to move out.
They were separated, and how people are whenever you separate, you never really just know a person like that.
Well,
you think about it, my mom was trying to move in with me.
Right, and that's kind of the confusion right now, is they're married, but they're
married, but they were having problems.
Stacy's friend Ebony tells detectives she knew about the issues in the couple's relationship as well.
She's like, I hate to go home. I don't want to go home. I said, well, Stacey, you always welcome to come over.
After speaking with Emmanuel and Ebony, detectives are eager to interview Charles Devine.
They tried to call him multiple times, but they kept getting his voicemail.
He would not answer his phone.
Hi, Mr. Devine. This is Detective McCandless again. I'm with the Jonesboro Police Department. I was hoping that you would call me back at your immediate convenience. It's very important that I speak with you.
When detectives sit down with Stacy's daughter Imani the next morning, they're hoping she can provide more information about her mother's relationship with Charles.
When I was talking to the detectives, they were asking me if she had any enemies, and I told them no. My mom didn't make trouble.
Imani confirmed that pretty much everyone loved Stacy.
The only problem she was having with anybody was Charles.
Imani tells detectives that when her mother first met Charles, everything was great.
She just really enjoyed herself, and I guess she felt like he was the one.
It was perfect. It was a fairy tale. But shortly after marriage, it just went downhill.
He lost his job at the factory that they worked at together.
Charles couldn't hold down a steady job, and that caused conflict in the marriage.
And at this point, she felt like she was spending all her money on everything, and he wasn't contributing anymore.
I would just call, and she would be so frustrated, like, he doesn't have any money, I'm paying for everything.
Someone who works that many jobs is trying to stay financially solid, and that was very troubling to her.
Imani also tells detectives about a suspicious phone call she had with Charles a couple days earlier.
This was before they had identified Stacy's body, and Imani was trying to get a hold of her mom because she hadn't heard from her in a few days.
I called Charles. I'm like, hey, like, are you at home? He's like, no, I'm not home.
Well, actually, I'm out applying for jobs right now.
And I would say, have you talked to her today? Or he was like, no, I ain't seen her. I say, okay. He say, well, what's going on? I say, well, I've been calling her phone and I can't get in contact with her. It's going straight to voicemail.
It's not like her to go this long without talking to anybody. I'm really getting worried.
And he's just like, yeah, me and your mom. I'm like, yeah, I know. She told me that you two haven't been in a good place. So, you know, that's nothing new to me.
I'll let you know if I hear something.
Okay.
So basically, a lot of the stuff that you know is just over phone conversations, like you haven't witnessed anything directly.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there any other areas of her life that we need to be looking at? Does she hang out with people that...
Now, that's something she did say. She did. My mom had a thing for females.
According to Imani, it was another point of contention for the couple.
She would always be like, oh, I got my boo, and da-da-da. Say, Mom, you got too many boos. You need to chillax. You're married.
Right.
But, you know, at that point, she just wasn't happy, and, you know, she was just...
They were moving in a different direction anyway.
Detectives ask Imani if she has names for any of the women her mother was spending time with.
Do you know any of these girlfriends by name?
She is the one.
Stacy had gotten close to a woman at work named Alex Brown. Alex was also married.
I guess they were really like each other's diaries.
Could Alex Brown be the key to unlocking what happened to Stacy Devine?
Right now, everybody is a suspect.
Detectives investigating the murder of 41-year-old Stacy Devine have just learned that her relationship with her husband Charles hit a rough patch soon after they got married.
She started calling me and telling me certain things like, oh, well, he can't hold a job and he doesn't have money.
Stacy was bisexual. When things got rough with Charles, she began to explore relationships with women.
Investigators believe one of those women was her co-worker, Alex Brown.
I guess they were really like each other's diaries.
When detectives make contact with Alex, she agrees to come into the station for an interview.
You know, right now everybody's a suspect.
But Alex assures detectives she would never hurt Stacy.
Well, I didn't do it.
Well, we don't know what happened to her. So what we're trying to do is get a timeline of where she was, what she was doing.
Detectives inquire about the nature of Alex's relationship with Stacy.
I've been on Stacy since about 7 months.
Okay. I'm also receiving a little bit of information that you guys may have had sort of romantic relationship at some point.
Not really.
Alex said they were really just close friends. They weren't dating.
Did you know that she was married?
Yes, we just started talking, you know, just kind of get to know each other. She knew I was in a relationship and everything.
Oh, okay. And are you currently married?
Yes.
Okay.
Alex said that her wife didn't have any issue with the close friendship between her and Stacy.
However, Alex claims Charles didn't approve.
I don't know. What? Look at what Charles just sent me. Oh my God.
He texted me something one time and I was like, what are you talking about?
Okay. What did that say? What?
I can't remember verbally, but it was like something about you want to do this to my wife and stuff like that.
He actually sent a sexual picture of Stacy that was not in a good light for Stacy.
Oh my God. Girl, I'm so sorry. How did he even get your number? I don't know.
So he was basically just being aggressive?
Yeah, in the text message, yeah.
I haven't wanted to say anything for a long time, but I'm not sure how much more of this stuff I can even take.
He started talking, opening up more to me about what was going on at home and how he was controlling, abusive. I know one day she came in to work with 2 black eyes and she tried to cover it up with makeup.
But that's not all.
Stacy said that he tried to poison her.
What?
He was putting hydrocodone pills in her drink.
And that really just threw me for a loop, like, why? And I said, well, why don't you just get out of it? Just leave.
Stacy, you have got to get out of there. No, I know. You're right.
Alex told detectives the last time she spoke with Stacy was February the 11th at 2 p.m. Hello?
Hey. So how is everything going? I'm doing it. I'm leaving it. I can't take it anymore.
Stacy told Alex that she was taking her advice. She was officially leaving Charles.
The last contact you ever had was Thursday at 2 p.m.?
Yep, that was it.
What do you think happened to her?
I believe he killed her.
Now more than ever, detectives know they need to track down Charles Devine.
Like I said, it's very important that I speak with you. I know that you've probably gotten several other phone calls, but I would like to sit down with you and talk about what's going on with her and see what we can't figure out. If you would, just give me a call back, please. Thank you, sir.
And on February 15th, Charles finally shows up at police headquarters.
So, I mean, you understand why we're here talking about Stacy.
Charles says when he learned that his wife had been found dead, he was stunned.
Well, I done already consoled and hurt, cried and all that the last 2 days. It hurt. I ain't gonna say it. You know, if I sit here and say it don't affect me and don't hurt, I'll be honest.
He said that's why it took him so long to get back to investigators when they were trying to reach him. He was really just trying to pull it together.
He admitted he and Stacy were on the outs. Their relationship was falling apart, but he still loved her.
Let's talk about that. What's been going on with that?
On October, she just started pulling away.
What does it mean?
Like distance, putting distance between us.
Charles admits that when he saw how close Stacy was becoming with her coworker Alex, it did make him uncomfortable.
He admitted that he sent the text to Alex in the heat of the moment.
He indicated that, well, yeah, it looks like things weren't going to work out, but they had agreed on what they were going to do, and there was no ill will.
But detectives aren't letting Charles off the hook.
They asked him about the abuse allegations and the allegation that he tried to poison her with hydrocodone.
I mean, we had many arguments about little things, but nowhere fist fights or physical altercation or nothing like that.
Okay, so talk to me about the report I'm getting as far as you putting prescription medicine in one of her drinks. I know you know about this story. So how did that come about?
I do not know.
Charles really wasn't willing to cop to anything.
Detectives shift their line of questioning to the day they believe Stacy was killed. Thursday, February 11th.
When was the last time you saw her? Kind of give me a timeline.
Charles Devine said that on February the 11th, he left the house around 1 p.m. And when he left, Stacy was there.
Okay, and where'd you go?
I went up to Windmill Rice to do an application and to workforce.
So they should have room for that? Okay.
After finishing his job applications, Charles says he went back home.
So we can put you back at the house at about 2:45 p.m.?
At which time he says, Stacy's gone, her car's gone.
Stacy?
And no one was at home?
No.
Did you think it was weird that she wasn't there? Or?
He noticed that Stacy's toothbrush wasn't there and that she had clothes in her bag as if she was packing. So Charles says he assumes that she was going on to a trip or something.
Like I said, she took a toothbrush, so I just assumed she went away for the weekend.
What'd you do at that point?
Charles' answer takes detectives by surprise.
He went to go meet up with another woman.
You free tonight?
He does have a girlfriend, Maria, and Maria is someone that Stacy was not aware of.
On February 15th, 2016, Arkansas detectives are interviewing Charles Devine, the estranged husband of 41-year-old murder victim Stacy Devine.
Charles denied having anything to do with his wife's death.
But in speaking with Charles, detectives have just unearthed a new suspect. Charles's mistress, Maria Cross.
The evening before his wife was found dead, he allegedly spent the night with Maria.
You free tonight?
Did she want Charles all to herself?
To find out, detectives bring Maria Cross in for questioning.
So we've been talking to a gentleman by the name of Charles Devine, okay? And I've come to find out that you know Charles, is that correct? And how do you know Charles?
We met through crazy.
What is the extent of the relationship? Just relationship, friends, just sexual in nature?
It is sexual in nature.
But Maria claims she thought he was single.
She had no idea that he had a wife, and she had no idea that his wife had just died.
He felt in sorority sports.
Okay. Her body was found in a ditch, and it's very mysterious circumstances right now.
Maria confirms what Charles told detectives. They were together the night of the 11th.
On February the 11th, Maria spent the night with Charles Devine.
You're not tired already, are you?
We didn't really talk much. You just wanted to sleep when we were together. That's all we did wanted to do was sleep. And I'm like,
Do you actually mean sleep? Or
yeah, sleep. Like, nothing going on. Like, snoring.
And by 5 a.m. the next morning, Charles left in a hurry.
Where are you going?
He tells me that he actually had an accident and had to go home and shower and change clothes, and that's why he left. I didn't see him again.
What kind of accident?
Like, he had diarrhea.
That was strange for Maria. And, Charles left her and he did not come back.
Would you be willing to take a polygraph to show that your timeline is correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have nothing to hide.
Maria passes the polygraph with flying colors. Investigators believe she's telling the truth.
She didn't seem to have any involvement in Stacy's death.
Which leaves Charles Devine as their sole suspect.
Charles was the only one with the real motive. He was controlling and clearly tried to hurt Stacy in the past.
On February 23rd, police bring Charles back in for a follow-up interview.
Now's the time for you to talk, dude. I've been talking.
No.
Like I said, if you look on her, Jack, you're not on the truth.
The detectives decided to show Charles the photo of Stacy's dead body that had Emmanuel running from the room, hoping it'll trigger some emotional response from him as well.
Tell us what happened, what made her look like that. I don't know. Yes, you do. No, I don't. So cold-blooded killer it is. That sure sounds like it. Yeah, cold-blooded killer. Man, that's dude. Look, let me tell you something. If this was my wife, there ain't no way I would be able to sit in that chair and not bawl my freaking eyes out. I'm thinking.
You just completely lying.
That's your wife. She struggled to breathe until you choked her out and sucked the life out of her. What made you that mad to do that, Charles? I couldn't do it.
With Charles refusing to come clean, detectives are at an impasse.
They don't have anything physical linking Charles to the actual death of Stacy.
Investigators secured a search warrant for the Devines' home in hopes that they could find any sign of what happened inside.
But once again, they're at a loss.
There were no signs of struggle in the house. In fact, the house was clean and neat.
There are no eyewitnesses to this case. There's nothing to indicate that anything happened inside of that house as far as damaged furniture or blood on the carpeting, anything like that.
In 2016, this case involving Stacy Devine goes cold.
Stacy's loved ones are concerned that she will never receive the justice she deserves.
You kind of lose faith in people. Like, are y'all gonna even find out what's going on? Or do y'all care?
During that time, I did feel like nothing was gonna happen. I was thinking like, this isn't fair.
The weeks turn to months, and months turn into years. But Jonesboro investigators never give up.
A Texas-based company comes in that specializes in reopening what they call cold cases.
In 2019, it is brought back to life based on an investigation conducted by Cold Justice.
There was all this shocking new evidence waiting to be uncovered.
Oh, that's important. Say that part again.
By the spring of 2019, the case of Stacy Devine's strangulation murder has gone cold.
Jonesboro investigators believe that her husband, Charles Devine, was responsible, but they did not have any physical evidence to arrest him for the crime.
Let's face it, in everybody's heart of hearts, they knew Charles did it. The big problem was trying to prove it.
But in June of 2018, another team of investigators breathed new life into Stacy's case.
It is brought back to life based on an investigation conducted by Cold Justice.
When I did hear from the detectives that a TV show wanted to pick up my mother's case, I'm like, okay. It brought me a little hope back.
Jonesboro detectives, along with the detectives from Cold Justice, started to go back and they re-interviewed her co-workers, her friends, her lovers.
So when the detectives sit down again with Stacy's dear friend Ebony, she's still quite emotional about losing her.
Well, is there anything else you can think of that we've not talked about or has crossed your mind since over the last few years?
Didn't get a chance to take her insurance policy back over to her kids.
Oh, that's important. Say that part again.
She didn't get a chance to change her insurance policy back over to the kids.
How did you know that she was even thinking about doing that?
Because she was leaving.
Stacy had confided in Ebony that she was going to transfer her 401k from work out of Charles's name and into her children's name, and the fact that there was about a $500,000 insurance policy in which Charles would get half of that.
Investigators discover that Charles requested the insurance benefits on March 1st, 2016, just 2 weeks after the death of his wife.
At that point, we felt like we also had a financial motive for her death.
It all points directly at Charles here, as far as being the perpetrator in this offense.
The discovery of the financial motive gives investigators probable cause to get a warrant for Charles' cell phone.
I think that the big thing that we came up with were the phone records. That was, in my opinion, the thing that pushed this case right over the top to where the DA decided to take it.
In their 2016 interview with Charles Devine, he told investigators he left the house at 1 p.m. on February 11th to apply for jobs and didn't return until almost 3 p.m.
Stacy?
So we can put you back at the house at about 2:45? Yeah.
But the cell phone records prove that the window of time Charles was really out applying for jobs was 12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Investigators believe that Stacy was killed just after 2 p.m. Charles would have been back home at that time.
His entire timeline was wrong.
Additionally, Charles's phone records place him in the area Stacy's body was found around 9 a.m. on the 12th.
Why was he there? This was a remote part of town that didn't get a lot of traffic.
His story is, again, really starting to fall apart. And he has no explanation for being in that area at that time.
It just simply defied any common sense whatsoever that anyone other than Charles Devine had done this.
Investigators believe that while Charles was out job hunting on the 11th, he was monitoring Stacy's cell phone.
He was looking at her text messages somehow through getting an app on her phone. He was trying to find what she was doing, listening to phone calls.
What we surmise is that when she's telling her friend that, yes, today I'm leaving, I'm going to go away for the weekend and I'm divorcing Charles, that Charles knows about this.
They believe after Charles applied for the 2 jobs, he came home in a rage.
We believe that that's when Charles confronts her.
What do you think you're doing?
Charles, I can't do this anymore.
He knew she is trying to get him off of her life insurance. She was going to leave.
It's time for me to go.
Oh, you ain't going nowhere.
Don't touch me.
And that's when things escalated to a level they could not come back from.
Charles!
Even though Charles Devine has refused to admit any wrongdoing in the death of his wife, 41-year-old mother of 2, Stacy Devine, investigators are starting to piece together their theory of what happened.
He knew that she was going to leave him and transfer her life insurance policy to her kids.
He wasn't willing to let that happen.
Oh, you ain't going nowhere.
Don't touch me.
Charles Devine strangled Stacy.
With so much fury that he broke her hyoid bone.
It was, if I can't have her, nobody else will.
After Stacy was dead, Charles arranged to meet up with his lover Maria to establish an alibi.
You free tonight?
We believe possibly when he leaves his girlfriend at 5 a.m. and says, I've got to go home and change clothes, that may have very well been when he disposed of Stacy's body.
It's a theory supported by Charles's phone records.
They could see him leaving Maria's at 5 a.m. to go home, and then his phone pings at 9 a.m. at the body dump site.
He had taken her body out and left it at the ditch on Pacific Road.
Then, by 5 p.m. that same day, Stacy's body was discovered by the passerby.
On July 26, 2019, over 3 years since Stacy's death, investigators finally charged Charles Devine for the crime.
The court allowed us to submit it as a murder in the 2nd degree because despite the fact we were confident that we had proven that Stacy had died at the hands of Mr. Devine, we clearly didn't know what exactly happened. And we were concerned that a jury might say, well, you haven't proved murder in the 1st degree because you haven't proved it was premeditated.
I do remember them calling and telling us, like, hey, we just arrested Charles. And I really do feel like that was such a big relief for me and my brother.
You gotta go for years without this person going to jail. And then one day it's over. I feel like everything's done, but that was just the beginning.
Charles' trial begins in October of 2022, and he pleads not guilty.
There was no physical evidence that tied him to the crime. We had a lot of circumstantial evidence, but it's hard to convince a jury with.
Charles's defense team asserts that none of the state's evidence proves Charles killed Stacy.
I was a little worried, I'll be honest. You kind of know that this person's gonna try to fight it to the end, or they're gonna try to make it seem like they didn't do anything.
But the defense's strategy doesn't sway the jury. Charles Devine is found guilty of 2nd-degree murder.
He's sentenced to 30 years.
It was justice, it was served, but it was served late. That's a long time to wait for justice from 2016 to 2022. And that's usually not the way it goes.
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like it was enough because I feel like he deserved more. Because you took somebody's life from, somebody, and I'll never get to have my mom again. But he's in jail. He's gone. And I'm gonna make sure he's staying there as long as possible.
When they did find him guilty, I was so happy. I really was, because I felt like we had finally got justice for my mother.
Emmanuel and Imani hopefully are able to start the process of healing because their healing didn't get to start until this verdict.
She will be proud of me and my brother right now for just hanging on to hope. If anybody else out there is going through the same situation, just stay hopeful.
Even if you're going through the worst, don't ever give up. Because when you give up, that's when you lose. As long as you keep faith, everything's gonna work out.
Nobody in Ash Creek could explain why the dogs started barking at exactly 2:13 every morning after the body disappeared. The sound rolled through the neighborhood like a warning siren in the dead of night, sharp, frantic, terrified. Windows stayed dark. Curtains never moved. People pretended not to hear it because fear spreads faster in small towns when nobody wants to become part of the story. But 3 streets away from the abandoned railway bridge where 17-year-old Clara Whitmore vanished in the winter of 1981, an old woman later told police she heard something else that night. Not screams. Not gunshots. A shovel. Slow. Rhythmic. Digging through frozen ground while snow fell hard enough to erase footprints before sunrise. By morning, Clara was gone. No blood. No witnesses. No body. Only her bicycle lying near the edge of Blackwater Road, wheels still spinning when a truck driver discovered it beneath flickering streetlights shortly after dawn. The case detonated across Ash Creek instantly. Missing teenager. Honor student. Cheerleader. Church volunteer. The kind of girl people described as too good for this world after tragedy arrives and everyone suddenly becomes an expert on innocence. Clara's photograph flooded television screens across the state within hours. Bright smile, feathered brown hair, silver necklace resting against her winter coat. Reporters crowded outside the Whitmore family home while volunteers combed forests, drainage ditches, frozen riverbanks. Helicopters circled overhead. Police dogs tracked her scent toward the abandoned railway bridge before losing it completely near the river. Then the rumors started. A black pickup seen near the bridge after midnight. A strange man buying cigarettes at Miller's gas station around 1:40 a.m. Teenagers whispering about Clara secretly meeting someone older. Detectives chased every lead until exhaustion hollowed them out, but nothing held together long enough to survive scrutiny. Days turned into weeks. Snowstorms buried evidence beneath layers of ice and mud. Witness statements contradicted each other constantly. One claimed Clara entered a truck willingly. Another swore they heard a violent argument near the bridge. Some believed she ran away. Others feared something worse lurking beneath Ash Creek's quiet streets. Then police found the necklace, buried partially beneath frozen leaves less than 20 feet from the riverbank. Clara's father identified it immediately. Small silver cross. Christmas gift from her mother 2 years earlier. Detectives searched the area aggressively afterward, convinced they were standing near a burial site. Nothing. No remains. No blood. No clothing. Just endless frozen earth stretching into dead winter woods. The investigation collapsed slowly after that. State police reduced manpower within 6 months. Volunteers stopped searching. Television coverage faded. Clara Whitmore became another cold case pinned quietly inside county archives while Ash Creek tried desperately to move forward. But small towns never truly move on from disappearances. They absorb them. Live beside them. Carry them like scars beneath ordinary routines. Parents started locking doors earlier. Teenage girls stopped walking alone at night. And every few years, someone claimed they saw Clara somewhere far away. A diner in Kansas, a bus station in Ohio, a grocery store outside Phoenix. False hope spread briefly each time before dying again beneath silence. Meanwhile, one man in Ash Creek continued living normally. Ethan Vale, 32 years old in 1981. Mechanic. Army veteran. Divorced. Quiet but respected enough that nobody paid attention to how often his name surfaced around the investigation's edges. Ethan lived less than a mile from Blackwater Road. Witnesses remembered his black pickup parked near Miller's gas station the night Clara vanished. Detectives questioned him twice during the original investigation, but his alibi survived. He claimed he spent the evening drinking at home alone while watching a boxing match on television. No evidence contradicted him, so life continued. Ethan repaired engines during the day, drank bourbon at Rusty Nail Tavern most nights, waved politely at neighbors from his front porch. Years passed. Ash Creek aged around him. New families moved in. Old witnesses died. Clara Whitmore's disappearance faded into local folklore, tragic but distant, like something buried too deep to uncover anymore. Until 2019. 38 years after Clara vanished, heavy rain triggered partial erosion along the riverbank near the abandoned railway bridge. Two teenage boys exploring the area discovered what they believed was an animal bone protruding from mud beneath collapsed brush. It was human. Detective Mara Bishop arrived at the scene before sunrise while fog drifted across Blackwater River like smoke. 39 years old. Sharp-eyed. Exhausted from too many violent crimes already. She immediately sensed something different about the atmosphere surrounding the discovery. Older officers avoided eye contact when Clara Whitmore's name surfaced again. Retired detectives started appearing near the command post offering fragmented memories nobody requested. Reporters flooded back into Ash Creek almost overnight. Cold case reopened. Human remains found near infamous disappearance. The nightmare returned instantly. Forensic teams excavated carefully along the riverbank for 3 straight days before uncovering a shallow grave hidden beneath decades of mud and tree roots. The skeleton belonged to a young female. Dental records confirmed identity within 48 hours. Clara Whitmore had finally been found. The announcement shattered Ash Creek emotionally. Clara's mother collapsed during the press conference. Former classmates held candlelight vigils outside the high school football field where Clara once cheered beneath Friday night lights. Television crews returned from across the country. Detectives reopened every original witness statement, searching desperately for mistakes buried beneath time. And then the forensic report arrived. Tiny traces of male DNA were recovered beneath Clara's jacket collar. Not enough in 1981. Enough now. The profile entered national databases immediately. No match. But Detective Mara Bishop refused to let the lead die quietly. She reviewed the original case files obsessively inside the cramped evidence room beneath county headquarters. Witness statements. Old photographs. Handwritten interview notes fading with age. Again and again one name surfaced near critical moments before Clara vanished. Ethan Vale. Bishop studied him carefully. Still living in Ash Creek. Now 70 years old. Widower. Retired mechanic. No violent criminal history. Quiet reputation. Volunteer at veterans fundraisers. The kind of aging small-town resident nobody notices anymore until police cars appear outside his house. Then Bishop uncovered something buried inside an old supplemental report never properly followed up in 1981. A waitress from Miller's gas station diner claimed Clara appeared frightened while speaking to an older man with grease under his fingernails roughly 30 minutes before disappearing. Detectives dismissed the statement because the witness admitted uncertainty. Ethan Vale worked as a mechanic. Bishop requested renewed DNA collection quietly before confronting him publicly. Investigators retrieved discarded beer bottles from outside Ethan's garage after he hosted neighbors during a football game gathering. The lab comparison took 6 agonizing days. When results arrived, the room went silent. Partial match. Not absolute certainty, but statistically powerful enough to justify deeper investigation. The DNA recovered from Clara Whitmore's clothing likely belonged to Ethan Vale. After 38 years, the dead girl from Blackwater Road suddenly reached out from beneath the earth and pointed directly toward the man nobody could ever prove touched her. Detective Bishop drove to Ethan's house personally the following morning. Rain hammered Ash Creek steadily while news helicopters circled somewhere overhead, already sensing movement inside the reopened case. Ethan answered the door wearing an old army sweatshirt, grey hair combed neatly back, expression calm enough to unsettle her immediately. "You're Ethan Vale?" "That depends who's asking." Mara Bishop. Ash Creek County Sheriff's Department. Ethan studied her badge for several seconds, then smiled faintly. This about Clara Whitmore? The question stopped Bishop cold, because she had not mentioned Clara's name yet. And suddenly, standing beneath the dim porch light while rainwater dripped steadily from the roof above them, Detective Mara Bishop felt something old and buried beginning to crawl slowly back into the light. Detective Mara Bishop did not answer immediately. Rainwater rolled down the shoulders of her coat while Ethan Vale stood motionless in the doorway watching her with eyes too calm for a man connected to a murdered girl after nearly 4 decades. Behind him, the house smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, motor oil, and old wood rotting slowly beneath years of neglect. A television murmured somewhere deeper inside the living room. Baseball commentary. Crowd noise. Ordinary sounds wrapped around a moment that suddenly felt anything but ordinary. "You remember Clara Whitmore?" Bishop finally asked. Ethan gave a faint shrug. "Hard town to forget something like that. You brought her name up before I did. So most people don't jump straight to a missing girl from 1981 when detectives knock on their door." Ethan stared at her for several long seconds, then stepped aside slowly. "You coming in or planning to interrogate me in the rain?" The house looked frozen in another decade. Old war photographs hung beside rusted fishing equipment. Ashtrays overflowed near a stained recliner facing the television. Bishop noticed stacks of newspapers piled carefully against one wall, dating back years. Ethan moved through the room stiffly but confidently, like someone fully comfortable inside his own routines. Not nervous. Not surprised. That unsettled her more than fear would have. He offered coffee. Bishop declined. Then Ethan sat heavily in the recliner and muted the television. "So," he said quietly, "you found her?" Not a question. Bishop studied him carefully. "How did you know we found remains?" "Whole town knows already." "Not officially." Ethan smiled again. Thin. Controlled. Almost amused. "Nothing stays official in Ash Creek." The conversation drifted carefully after that. Bishop asked about 1981. Ethan repeated the same alibi detectives documented decades earlier. Drinking alone. Watching television. No visitors. No reason to leave the house. He spoke calmly, almost mechanically, as though reciting something practiced thousands of times in private over the years. Then Bishop mentioned the DNA. That changed him. Only slightly. A pause barely lasting 2 seconds. But enough. "What DNA?" Ethan asked. "Male DNA recovered from Clara Whitmore's jacket." Silence settled across the room instantly. The baseball game continued flickering silently on television screens reflected faintly across Ethan's glasses while rain hammered the windows harder outside. "You think it's mine?" "We're still examining evidence." Ethan leaned back slowly in his chair. "You know what happens when people spend 40 years wanting a monster?" he said softly. "Eventually they start creating one." Bishop ignored the comment. "Did you know Clara?" "Everybody knew Clara." "That's not what I asked." Another pause. Then Ethan sighed. "She came by the garage sometimes. Needed air in her tires once or twice. Kids passed through there all the time." "Were you alone with her?" "No." "You sure about that?" Ethan's jaw tightened for the first time. "You got a reason to ask that?" Bishop reached slowly into her folder and placed an old crime scene photograph on the coffee table between them. Clara's bicycle near Blackwater Road. Police lights glowing through snow. "We reopened witness interviews," Bishop said. "Someone remembered seeing your truck near the bridge the night she disappeared." Ethan stared at the photograph without touching it. "Lot of trucks looked alike back then." "This witness remembered yours specifically." "Then your witness is lying." His voice remained calm, but Bishop noticed something shifting underneath now. Not panic. Irritation. Pressure building quietly behind control. She pressed harder. A waitress at Miller's Diner remembered Clara arguing with an older man shortly before midnight. "So," she described grease under his fingernails. Ethan looked down instinctively at his hands. The movement lasted less than a second. But Bishop saw it. Then Ethan laughed softly. "You know how many mechanics lived in Ash Creek in 1981? You tell me. Too damn many." Bishop left the house 40 minutes later with nothing directly incriminating, yet every instinct inside her screamed the same thing. Ethan Vale knew more than he admitted. Not because of what he said, but because of how carefully he avoided saying anything real at all. Outside, reporters already waited near the end of his driveway. News spread fast. Cold case detectives question longtime Ash Creek resident. Possible DNA link in Clara Whitmore investigation. By sunset, Ethan Vale's face dominated regional news broadcasts for the first time in his life. And Ash Creek started dividing itself apart. Some residents believed police finally found their killer. Others defended Ethan aggressively. Church members described him as generous. Former co-workers called him quiet but harmless. Veterans who drank with him at Rusty Nail Tavern insisted investigators were targeting an old man for headlines. But beneath the arguments, fear returned. Because suddenly the murder was not folklore anymore. It had a living suspect. And he still walked freely through town. That night Detective Bishop reopened storage boxes untouched since 1982 inside county archives. Dust coated everything. Old cassette recordings. Photographs curling at the edges. Handwritten detective notes from officers long retired or dead. She worked alone past midnight until one small detail buried inside an interview transcript stopped her cold. 3 days before Clara vanished, another teenage girl filed a harassment complaint involving Ethan Vale. The complaint went nowhere. According to the report, 16-year-old Rachel Mercer claimed Ethan followed her repeatedly after school and once grabbed her wrist outside Miller's gas station while asking if she wanted a ride somewhere warmer. Rachel escaped and reported the incident to local deputies, but officers dismissed it as misunderstanding after Ethan denied touching her. Bishop immediately tracked Rachel Mercer down. Now 54 years old. Divorced. Living outside Tulsa. The phone call lasted nearly 2 hours. Rachel remembered everything. "He scared me," she whispered over the line. Even back then, Rachel described Ethan lingering near the high school frequently despite having no children there. Girls whispered about him constantly. Nothing overt enough for police involvement most of the time. Just staring too long. Offering rides. Appearing suddenly near football games or convenience stores. "Everybody said I was exaggerating," Rachel said quietly. Then Clara disappeared. Bishop felt her pulse quicken. "Did you ever see Clara with Ethan?" A long silence followed. Then Rachel answered. "Once." The word hung heavy between them. Rachel claimed she saw Clara standing beside Ethan's truck behind Miller's Diner roughly a week before the disappearance. Clara looked upset. Ethan leaned close while talking to her through the passenger side window. Rachel almost approached them but stopped when Clara suddenly got into the truck willingly. That statement changed everything. Because until now investigators possessed no confirmed evidence linking Clara directly to Ethan before her death. Bishop requested search warrants immediately. Meanwhile Ethan Vale remained outwardly calm. Neighbors saw him mowing his lawn the next morning, buying coffee downtown, waving casually at reporters outside his property. The performance unsettled Bishop deeply because men hiding secrets for decades learn how to survive suspicion. Panic belongs to amateurs. Real predators adapt. They age quietly beside everyone else until time itself becomes camouflage. Then the second forensic report arrived. Additional DNA traces recovered from Clara's clothing indicated prolonged physical contact before death. Not random contamination. Not accidental transfer. Intimate proximity. The odds narrowed dramatically now. And buried beneath the report sat another detail even more disturbing. Fibers recovered from Clara's jacket matched industrial blanket material commonly used inside automotive garages during the early 1980s. Ethan Vale owned an automotive garage in 1981. Bishop drove directly to the abandoned property that afternoon. Vale Auto Repair sat near the edge of Ash Creek beyond the railroad tracks, closed for nearly 12 years now. Rusted signage creaked above broken windows while weeds swallowed cracked pavement around the building. Deputies secured the perimeter as forensic teams entered carefully beneath flashlights. Inside, Dust coated everything. Old engine parts, oil drums, tool cabinets frozen in time. But near the back storage room, investigators found something strange. Fresh scratches around the concrete floor. Recent movement. As if something heavy had been dragged recently across the surface. Bishop knelt beside the marks while technicians examined the area. Then one deputy called her over. A section of shelving along the far wall shifted slightly when touched. Hidden behind it sat a narrow steel door nearly invisible beneath decades of grime. The room went silent instantly, because suddenly, after 38 years of dead ends and rumors and buried secrets, Detective Mara Bishop found herself staring at something every cold case investigator both dreams about and fears more than anything else. A hidden room no one ever knew existed. The steel door groaned open like something waking up. Dust drifted through the flashlight beams while Detective Mara Bishop stepped carefully into the hidden room beneath Ethan Vale's abandoned garage. The smell hit first. Damp concrete. Mold. Old gasoline soaked into walls over decades. The space itself was small, maybe 12 feet wide, buried behind the storage area like a secret preserved outside time. One naked light bulb hung dead from the ceiling. Rusted chains rested against one wall beside an old mattress collapsed inward from age. Nobody spoke. Forensic technicians moved slowly through the darkness while cameras flashed across surfaces untouched for decades. Bishop felt cold rising through her chest with every second spent underground. Not because she already knew what happened there, because she could feel the possibility. Then one technician froze near the far corner. Detective Bishop crossed the room quickly. Scratched into the concrete wall, barely visible beneath grime and mildew, were 6 uneven letters. CLARA. The air inside the room seemed to disappear instantly. A younger deputy turned away and vomited near the doorway. Bishop stared at the carved name while adrenaline hammered through her body. The letters looked frantic. Jagged. Deep enough to damage fingernails carving into hardened concrete. Beneath the name sat dozens of shorter marks running vertically along the wall. Tally marks. Someone counting days. The nightmare changed shape immediately. Until now, investigators believed Clara Whitmore was abducted and murdered quickly near Blackwater River. But the hidden room suggested something far worse. Captivity. The possibility poisoned the entire investigation within minutes. Forensic teams sealed the garage while Bishop requested emergency warrants expanding searches across every property Ethan Vale ever owned. News helicopters circled overhead before sunset. Reporters screamed questions through police barricades while technicians carried evidence boxes from the garage one by one beneath flashing lights. Inside the hidden room, investigators uncovered old fibers matching Clara's jacket, hair samples, fingerprints degraded by time, and beneath the mattress, something that froze the entire task force. A silver high school class ring engraved with the initial CW. Clara Whitmore's graduation ring. Her mother identified it through tears less than 2 hours later. Ash Creek exploded after that. Crowds gathered outside Ethan Vale's house screaming accusations late into the night. Police established armed patrols around the property after someone threw a brick through his front window. Rusty Nail Tavern banned discussion of the case entirely after 2 men nearly killed each other arguing whether Ethan deserved execution before trial. And through all of it, Ethan remained silent. Detectives brought him in for questioning shortly after midnight. He arrived calm. Too calm. Grey jacket zipped neatly to his throat. Hands folded carefully on the interrogation table while cameras rolled silently overhead. Bishop entered carrying photographs from the hidden room. The scratched name on the wall. Clara's ring. The mattress. Ethan studied each image quietly, then sighed. You people really want this to be true. Bishop dropped another photograph directly in front of him. The tally marks. How long was she down there? Ethan's eyes lingered on the image for several seconds before drifting away. I want a lawyer. The interview ended immediately, but the damage was already done. For the first time in 38 years, Ash Creek believed Clara Whitmore's killer had finally been found. Then another witness surfaced. Marlene Hodge, 71 years old. Former waitress at Miller's Diner. The same woman whose original statement about Clara speaking to an older mechanic was mostly ignored back in 1981. After seeing coverage of the hidden room on television, Marlene contacted investigators claiming she remembered something else. Something she never told police. Bishop met her inside a nursing home outside Cedar Falls the following morning. Marlene trembled constantly while speaking, oxygen tubes running beneath her nose, eyes wet before the interview even started. "I should have said it back then," she whispered. "I was scared." According to Marlene, Clara came into the diner around 11:20 p.m. the night she vanished. Alone. Nervous. Kept checking the windows repeatedly like she expected someone to arrive. Ethan Vale entered roughly 10 minutes later and sat beside her booth uninvited. "They were arguing," Marlene said softly. "Real quiet at first." "What about?" "I couldn't hear most of it. But Clara kept saying she wanted him to leave her alone." Bishop leaned forward immediately. "You're sure it was Ethan?" Marlene nodded without hesitation. "He grabbed her arm before they left." The room went silent. Because this was no longer vague suspicion or rumor. This was direct witness testimony placing Ethan physically with Clara shortly before her disappearance. Then Marlene revealed the detail that shattered Bishop completely. Clara looked terrified when she left the diner. Not angry, not emotional, terrified. "She mouthed something to me when she walked out," Marlene whispered. "What?" Marlene's eyes filled with tears. "Help me." Bishop drove back toward Ash Creek through pounding rain, unable to shake the image from her mind. A 17-year-old girl silently begging for help while adults around her failed to understand the danger standing beside her. The entire case suddenly felt suffocating. Every missed opportunity. Every ignored instinct. Every witness police dismissed because Ethan Vale looked too ordinary to become a monster in anyone's imagination. Then the forensic report from the hidden room arrived. Blood traces recovered beneath the concrete floor matched Clara Whitmore. After 38 years, investigators finally possessed physical evidence placing Clara inside Ethan Vale's underground chamber. But the deeper excavation uncovered something even worse. Additional DNA profiles. At least 2 more female contributors. Unknown identities. Bishop stared at the report in disbelief, because suddenly Clara Whitmore no longer looked like Ethan's only victim. The task force expanded instantly. State investigators joined the case. Missing persons files from surrounding counties flooded into Ash Creek headquarters. Detectives pinned photographs of unsolved disappearances across conference room walls searching for patterns hidden beneath decades of cold cases. Young women, late teens. Most vanished near highways or rural roads between 1975 and 1986. Some bodies recovered. Most never found. And again, Ethan Vale's name floated near the edges through witness statements, employment records, bar tabs, repair receipts, forgotten police interviews. Like smoke surrounding fire, nobody noticed until it was too late. Meanwhile, Ethan sat inside county jail awaiting formal charges while reporters camped outside 24 hours a day. He refused interviews. Refused plea negotiations. Refused even basic conversation with most deputies, until the night guard overheard him speaking softly inside his cell around 3 a.m. She wasn't supposed to die. The statement reached Detective Bishop before sunrise. She returned to the interrogation room immediately. Ethan looked exhausted now. Pale. Shadows beneath his eyes deeper than before. For the first time since arrest, age finally seemed to settle visibly across his face. Bishop placed a recorder on the table. "You said Clara wasn't supposed to die." Ethan stared at the wall silently. "You kept her in that room." No answer. "You held her there against her will." Still silence. Then Ethan finally spoke without looking at her. "She wouldn't stop screaming." The words landed like a hammer. Bishop kept her voice steady somehow. "How long was she there?" Ethan rubbed trembling hands together slowly. "I don't remember." "You carved her name into the wall?" "No." "Then who did?" Ethan closed his eyes. And for one brief second, Bishop saw something crack beneath decades of control. Fear. Not fear of prison. Not fear of exposure. Something older. Deeper. "You don't understand what happened down there," Ethan whispered. The room felt suddenly colder. Bishop leaned forward carefully. Then explain it to me. Ethan opened his eyes again, and what he said next changed the entire investigation forever. There was somebody else. There was somebody else. The sentence hung inside the interrogation room like smoke after an explosion. Detective Mara Bishop did not move. Neither did Ethan Vale. Rain rattled softly against the narrow jailhouse windows while fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, turning the silence into something heavy and electric. For nearly 40 years Ash Creek believed Clara Whitmore vanished into darkness alone. One predator. One victim. One buried secret rotting beneath a small town too frightened to ask harder questions. Now that story was breaking apart. Bishop kept her voice level. Who else? Ethan stared down at his hands. The old mechanic suddenly looked smaller than before. Not weaker. Just worn down, like decades of carrying something poisonous had finally started leaking through the cracks. You wouldn't know him, Ethan muttered. Him? No answer. Bishop pressed harder. You're telling me another man helped abduct Clara? Ethan's jaw tightened instantly. I didn't say abduct. You kept her locked in a hidden room beneath your garage. She came there willingly at first. The statement ignited something cold inside Bishop. She was 17. Ethan looked away. For several long seconds the only sound came from distant thunder rolling above Ash Creek. Then Ethan leaned back slowly in his chair and whispered something almost impossible to hear. People remember things wrong after this many years. Bishop dropped a crime scene photograph onto the table. The mattress, the chains, the carved name on the wall. That room remembers perfectly. Ethan's face hardened again immediately. Whatever weakness surfaced moments earlier disappeared behind control. I want my lawyer. The interview ended there. But the damage had already spread through the investigation like gasoline catching fire. Somebody else. 2 words. Enough to change everything. By noon the next day, detectives reopened every associated case file connected to missing girls across 3 counties between 1975 and 1986. Task Force analysts built timelines covering Ethan Vale's movements year by year. Employment records. Property ownership. Hunting licenses. Gas purchases. Bar receipts. The deeper investigators dug, the uglier the picture became. And another name surfaced repeatedly. Raymond Cutter, 41 years old in 1981. Owner of Cutter's Salvage Yard outside Ash Creek. Vietnam veteran. Known drunk. Violent temper. Dead since 1994 after what police ruled an accidental drowning during a fishing trip. Raymond also happened to be Ethan Vale's closest friend for nearly 20 years. The connection hit Detective Bishop hard. Old photographs from Rusty Nail Tavern showed Ethan and Raymond together constantly during the late 70s and early 80s. Fishing trips. Barbecues. Hunting weekends. In several images Raymond stood beside the exact black pickup witnesses reported near Blackwater Road the night Clara vanished. Then investigators uncovered something buried inside the original 1981 police reports. A teenage witness named David Mercer claimed he saw 2 men near the abandoned railway bridge shortly after midnight the night Clara disappeared. Detectives dismissed the statement because David admitted the snowfall limited visibility. 2 men, not 1. Bishop immediately tracked David down. Now 56 years old. Truck driver. Living outside Denver. The moment Clara Whitmore's name surfaced during their phone conversation, David went silent for nearly 10 seconds. I knew you people would call eventually, he said quietly. Bishop recorded everything. David described driving home after a late party on January 17, 1981. Snow falling heavily. Roads nearly empty. As he crossed Blackwater Bridge, he noticed a black pickup parked partially off the roadside near the old railway entrance. There were 2 guys outside, David said. One near the truck. One dragging something. Bishop felt her pulse quicken. Something? At the time I thought maybe a deer carcass. But now? David exhaled shakily. I think it was Clara. The room around Bishop suddenly felt smaller. Could you identify either man? I couldn't see faces clear. But one was definitely bigger. heavy-set. Raymond Cutter weighed over 200 pounds in 1981. Bishop requested immediate excavation warrants for Cutter salvage yard by sunset. Meanwhile, reporters tore through Ash Creek like vultures. Headlines exploded nationwide. Possible second suspect in Clara Whitmore case. Hidden room may be linked to multiple murders. Small town secrets resurface after 38 years. Residents stopped sleeping normally again. Old fears returned fast. Women who grew up during the original investigation started remembering strange encounters from decades earlier. Men came forward describing violent drunken fights involving Raymond Cutter and Ethan Vale behind local bars. Former classmates admitted they avoided certain roads at night because every girl knew those men were dangerous. But nobody ever stopped them. That realization poisoned Ash Creek worse than the murder itself. The town had seen warning signs. People simply looked away. Then the excavation at Cutter Salvage Yard uncovered human remains. The call reached Bishop at 4:42 a.m. She arrived before sunrise while floodlights illuminated acres of rusted vehicles and collapsed machinery behind yellow police tape. Forensic teams worked near an old drainage pit surrounded by twisted metal and mud. The smell of wet earth mixed with gasoline fumes thick enough to burn the throat. A forensic technician approached her slowly. Female remains, he confirmed. Young. Clara? Too early to tell. But Bishop already knew instinctively the remains were not Clara Whitmore. The body lay deeper underground. Older burial pattern. Different clothing remnants. Smaller skeleton. A second victim. The realization spread through the task force instantly. Raymond Cutter was no longer just a dead drinking body connected to Ethan Vale. He was becoming part of something much darker. Forensic examination identified the remains 2 days later. Jessica Lane, 19 years old. Missing since August 1978. Last seen hitchhiking 30 miles outside Ash Creek after leaving a county fair. Another cold case. Another forgotten girl. Another body hidden beneath decades of silence. Jessica's family collapsed publicly during the identification announcement. Her younger sister screamed at reporters outside county headquarters demanding to know why police never searched Cutter Salvage Yard originally. Nobody had an answer good enough to survive television cameras. Then the second grave appeared. 20 yards from Jessica Lane. Another female skeleton. Younger. 17 to 20 years old. The town spiraled into panic after that. Because suddenly every unsolved disappearance connected to Ash Creek felt alive again. Parents dug out old newspaper clippings. Retired officers started drinking themselves unconscious at Rusty Nail Tavern. Anonymous callers flooded police lines claiming Ethan Vale and Raymond Cutter stalked girls together during the late 70s. And inside county jail, Ethan stopped talking entirely until Detective Bishop brought him one photograph. Jessica Lane's recovered necklace. The effect was immediate. Ethan's breathing changed visibly. His eyes locked onto the evidence bag. "You found her," he whispered. Bishop leaned forward carefully. "Raymond buried her at the salvage yard." Silence. "You helped him." Ethan shook his head slowly. "No, you knew." Another pause. Then Ethan whispered something that made Bishop's blood run cold. He liked keeping trophies. The room seemed to freeze. Bishop kept her voice controlled with effort. "What trophies?" Ethan looked toward the wall again. "Hair ribbons. Jewelry. Photographs." Photographs. The word detonated inside Bishop's mind instantly. Because if Raymond Cutter kept photographs, then evidence might still exist somewhere despite his death. Bishop obtained emergency warrants for every remaining Cutter property before dawn. What investigators discovered inside Raymond's abandoned hunting cabin 3 days later would rip the Clara Whitmore investigation open wider than anyone imagined possible. Because hidden beneath loose floorboards under a rusted hunting table sat a metal box sealed tightly against moisture and time. Inside were 37 photographs, and Clara Whitmore appeared in 6 of them alive. The photographs changed everything. Detective Mara Bishop stared at them for nearly 20 minutes before speaking to anyone. The hunting cabin remained sealed beneath armed patrol while forensic teams processed the metal box piece by piece, But the images themselves already poisoned the entire investigation beyond repair, because Clara Whitmore was alive in those photographs. Terrified, bruised, and very clearly imprisoned. The first image showed Clara sitting on the floor of the hidden room beneath Ethan Vale's garage. Same concrete wall. Same mattress. Her knees pulled tightly against her chest while flash photography reflected in eyes swollen from crying. The second photograph showed her standing near a workbench inside the garage itself wearing the same winter coat she disappeared in back in 1981. The third photograph disturbed investigators most. Clara stared directly into the camera. A strip of duct tape covered her mouth. One side of her face appeared badly bruised, and someone's hand rested possessively on her shoulder from outside the frame. Bishop felt physically sick looking at it. For 38 years the town imagined Clara Whitmore vanished quickly into darkness. Instead she survived long enough for someone to document her suffering like a souvenir. A trophy. Exactly as Ethan described. Then forensic analysts noticed something hidden inside the corner of photograph 4. A reflection. Tiny. Distorted by cracked mirror glass hanging behind Clara. But visible enough. Two men. One holding the camera. The other standing beside Clara. Ethan Vale and Raymond Cutter together. The room inside Task Force headquarters fell silent after the enhancement finished processing. Detectives who spent months arguing whether Ethan acted alone suddenly confronted proof that Clara's nightmare involved multiple predators from the beginning. And that meant something even worse. If Ethan and Raymond abducted Clara together, then Jessica Lane might not have been the first victim. The timeline expanded instantly. Task Force investigators pinned every missing female case within a 100-mile radius across conference room walls. 17 disappearances now showed possible overlap with Ethan and Raymond's movements between 1974 and 1983. Most remained circumstantial. But after the photographs surfaced, circumstantial evidence stopped feeling theoretical. The monsters were real now, and they had faces. Meanwhile, news coverage exploded nationally after leaks about the photographs reached the press. Reporters described captivity images recovered from a dead suspect's property. Former FBI profilers appeared on television speculating about serial abduction patterns hidden beneath decades of unsolved disappearances. Ash Creek transformed overnight from quiet forgotten town into the center of one of the largest cold case investigations in state history. Then Clara's mother requested to see the photographs. Detective Bishop tried discouraging her gently. It failed. Margaret Whitmore arrived at county headquarters carrying Clara's old yearbook pressed tightly against her chest. 58 years old now. Exhausted beyond grief itself. The kind of exhaustion that only forms after surviving decades without answers. Bishop warned her repeatedly. The images were graphic, disturbing. Margaret insisted. The viewing lasted less than 30 seconds. The moment she saw Clara's bruised face beneath the duct tape, Margaret collapsed screaming onto the floor hard enough that paramedics were called immediately afterward. Witnesses later described the sound she made as animal-like. Not crying. Not shock. Pure devastation. Because every parent of a missing child imagines horrible endings. But seeing proof your daughter stayed alive long enough to suffer changes grief into something unbearable. That same evening, Ethan Vale requested another interview. This time he asked specifically for Detective Bishop. No lawyer present. The interrogation room smelled faintly of stale coffee and sweat when Bishop entered shortly after midnight. Ethan sat motionless beneath fluorescent lights, wrists cuffed loosely against the table, eyes hollow from sleeplessness. "You found the pictures," he said quietly. Bishop placed a folder in front of him. "We found Clara." Ethan looked down. For the first time since his arrest, genuine shame flickered briefly across his face. Not enough, but something. "How long was she alive after the abduction?" Bishop asked. Ethan rubbed trembling fingers together slowly. "I don't know exactly." "Try." A long silence followed. Then Ethan whispered, 8 days. The number hit Bishop like ice water. 8 days trapped beneath the garage while Ash Creek searched forests and rivers above her head. 8 days while her parents begged for information on live television. 8 days listening to footsteps overhead while the entire town believed she might still come home alive. Bishop kept her voice steady with effort. What happened during those 8 days? Ethan closed his eyes. We were drinking that night. Me and Raymond. His breathing slowed unevenly now, memories dragging themselves into the room piece by piece. We saw Clara outside the diner. Raymond recognized her from school events or something. Said she was pretty. Bishop felt disgust rising immediately. Then what? He wanted to scare her. The lie arrived automatically. Weak, transparent. Bishop leaned forward hard. You abducted a 17-year-old girl. Ethan's shoulders tightened. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. What does that mean? She fought. The room went dead quiet. Ethan stared at the table while speaking now, voice low and distant. Raymond grabbed her first near the bridge. She started screaming immediately. I told him to let her go. Bishop almost laughed at the absurdity. But you didn't stop him. No. Instead you took her to your garage. Ethan nodded once. Tiny movement. Enough. She kept begging to leave, he whispered. Every sentence sounded worse than the last. Bishop forced herself to keep listening. What happened in that room? Ethan's face drained pale. We tied her up. The fluorescent lights suddenly felt unbearably bright. Did you assault her? Ethan looked away instantly. Silence answered everything. Bishop pressed harder. Did Raymond assault her too? Another silence. Then Ethan whispered, yes. The confession poisoned the air itself, because now Clara Whitmore was no longer simply a murder victim. She became something far darker. A child tortured by two men hidden beneath a town searching desperately for her above ground. Then Ethan revealed the detail that shattered the entire timeline again. Clara almost escaped. On the 6th night of captivity, Raymond left the garage drunk while Ethan slept upstairs. Clara somehow freed one hand from restraints and reached the hidden room door. Ethan woke hearing noises below and stopped her before she reached the outside. She bit my hand, he muttered. Bishop stared instantly. Your hand? Ethan nodded weakly. She wouldn't stop fighting. The room seemed to tilt sideways, because suddenly the DNA beneath Clara's jacket collar made horrifying sense. Skin cells. Physical struggle. Direct contact during the attempted escape. And then Ethan said the words Bishop would never fully forget. She kept saying her father would kill us. Not police. Not prison. Her father. Even terrified beyond imagination, Clara Whitmore still believed someone would save her. But nobody came. Then Bishop asked the question sitting like poison between every sentence since the interrogation began. How did Clara die? Ethan stopped breathing normally. For several seconds he simply stared at the tabletop while distant thunder rolled outside beyond reinforced windows. Then he answered softly. Raymond panicked. Bishop felt cold spread through her chest. Why? Because Clara saw his face clearly. The room fell silent again. She threatened to tell everybody. And Ethan swallowed hard. He hit her. The sentence barely emerged above a whisper. How many times? I don't know. Was she alive afterward? Another pause. Then Ethan nodded slowly. For a little while. Bishop closed her eyes briefly. Somewhere outside reporters screamed questions beneath flashing news lights while Ash Creek struggled to understand the horror buried inside its own history. But inside that interrogation room, one truth finally emerged clearer than ever before. Clara Whitmore did not disappear into darkness. She spent 8 days trapped underground praying someone would find her before two ordinary men decided she could never be allowed to leave alive. The confession shattered Ash Creek completely. By morning, satellite trucks lined the streets outside county headquarters while national reporters described Clara Whitmore's final days in horrifying detail across every major network. 8 days underground. 2 men. Captivity photographs. Assault. Failed escape attempt. The story spread through the country like wildfire because it touched something deeper than murder. It exposed how evil can survive for decades behind ordinary faces. Schools cancelled classes after threats appeared online demanding revenge against Ethan Vale's surviving relatives. Protesters gathered outside the jail carrying Clara's senior portrait above candles and flowers while others screamed for Ethan's execution before trial. Rusty Nail Tavern boarded its windows after someone spray-painted "Killers Drank Here" across the front entrance. And still Detective Mara Bishop felt the investigation pulling somewhere darker. Because Ethan had confessed to Clara, Jessica Lane's remains were already recovered. But the photographs inside Raymond Cutter's metal box suggested more victims existed somewhere beyond the ones investigators already knew about. Bishop spent the next 48 hours reviewing every image recovered from the hunting cabin frame by frame. Most showed young women investigators had not identified yet. Some appeared conscious. Others heavily bruised or restrained. One photograph captured a terrified brunette sitting inside what looked like an unfinished basement while Christmas decorations hung faintly in the background. Forensic analysts estimated the image dated somewhere around 1976, 5 years before Clara disappeared. The timeline kept expanding backward. Then another detail surfaced. In several photographs, investigators noticed the same necklace appearing repeatedly on different victims. Small silver charm shaped like a bird. Cheap jewelry. Easy to overlook. Except Detective Bishop had seen it before. Inside an old missing persons report from 1977. Lena Brooks, 18 years old, disappeared after leaving a movie theater 70 miles south of Ash Creek. Witnesses last saw her entering a black pickup driven by 2 unidentified men. Bishop reopened the file immediately. Lena's body was never found, but the similarities became impossible to ignore now. Young women. Rural disappearances. Highways. Black pickup. Ethan and Raymond traveling together constantly during those years. The pattern was no longer theoretical. It was systematic. Then the forensic lab delivered another report from the hidden garage room. Additional blood evidence recovered beneath layers of old concrete belonged to at least 3 separate female victims. Not Clara, not Jessica. 3 more unknown women. The room inside Task Force headquarters went silent after the announcement. Detectives stared at the report while coffee turned cold in untouched cups around them. Everyone understood what this meant. The hidden room beneath Ethan's garage had been used repeatedly for years. Ash Creek was not investigating one murder anymore. It was excavating the remains of a serial predator partnership hidden inside the town for over a decade. Then Ethan stopped cooperating. The moment media coverage shifted from Clara Whitmore toward possible serial killings, he shut down completely. Lawyers arrived. Interviews ended. Every question received the same response. No comment. But Detective Bishop already possessed enough to keep digging. Search warrants expanded across neighboring counties while cadaver dogs combed properties once owned by Raymond Cutter and Ethan Vale. Abandoned wells. Hunting camps. Old repair yards. Rural farmland purchased decades earlier under false business names. The investigation consumed hundreds of officers now, and somewhere beneath all of it lurked another terrifying possibility. Some victims may still be unidentified because nobody ever connected their disappearances to Ash Creek at all. Then the first survivor surfaced. Her name was Denise Harper, 59 years old, living quietly outside Sacramento under a different surname. She contacted investigators after seeing Ethan Vale's face on television. The phone call lasted nearly 4 hours. Detective Bishop recorded every second. "I thought they'd kill me," Denise whispered. In 1979, Denise was 20 years old and hitchhiking through northern counties after leaving an abusive relationship. Near midnight outside Ash Creek, 2 men in a black pickup offered her a ride. One heavy-set, one thinner with dark hair. Raymond Cutter and Ethan Vale. Denise described the next hours through tears and fragmented breathing. The men drove her toward isolated back roads while drinking heavily. Raymond became violent quickly. Ethan remained quieter, but never intervened. Eventually they stopped near a wooded clearing where Raymond assaulted her while Ethan watched. Then something unexpected happened. Denise escaped. While the men argued drunkenly outside the truck, she ran barefoot through freezing woods and hid inside an irrigation ditch until sunrise. Terrified police would blame her because of the hitchhiking. She never reported the attack. "I convinced myself it was over," she said softly. Then Clara disappeared 2 years later. Bishop felt physically ill listening to the story because Denise Harper proved something crucial. Ethan Vale always had chances to stop Raymond Cutter. He chose not to. The predator partnership was not accidental or manipulated or driven by fear. It was voluntary. Then Denise revealed one more detail. There was another girl in the truck. Bishop froze instantly. What? Denise's breathing sharpened. Teenage maybe. In the back seat. She looked drugged. The room around Bishop seemed to contract inward. Did you recognize her? No. But she was alive. The statement detonated across the task force immediately. If Denise encountered another captive during the 1979 attack, investigators potentially faced unidentified victims existing outside every known case file already connected to Ethan and Raymond. The nightmare widened again. Then cadaver dogs alerted near Blackwater River, less than half a mile from where Clara's body was recovered. Excavation teams uncovered another shallow grave by sunset. Female, approximately 16 to 20 years old. No identification initially, but around her neck hung a silver bird charm necklace. Lena Brooks. After 42 years missing, another forgotten girl surfaced from beneath Ash Creek's soil. Bishop stood beside the excavation site while rain soaked through her coat and floodlights illuminated the grave like a stage in the darkness. She could hear reporters shouting beyond police lines. Helicopter blades overhead. Detectives moving through mud carrying evidence markers. And suddenly one realization settled heavily inside her chest. The riverbank had become a cemetery. For decades people fished there, camped there, walked dogs there. Children played near those woods while bodies decomposed silently beneath the earth. Then a forensic anthropologist approached her quietly. There's something else. He guided Bishop farther down the excavation trench. Another bone protruded partially through the mud wall. Smaller, juvenile. Bishop felt nausea hit instantly. How old? Hard to say yet. The task force sealed the entire riverbank overnight. More graves emerged during the next week. 3 additional victims. 1 teenager. 2 adult women. Ash Creek descended into collective horror as investigators transformed Blackwater River into one of the largest active excavation zones in state history. Families from surrounding counties flooded hotlines desperately hoping, and fearing, missing loved ones might finally be identified. Then Clara Whitmore's father disappeared. William Whitmore left home late one evening without explanation after watching Ethan Vale's televised confession replayed across national news. His truck was discovered abandoned near Blackwater Bridge shortly before midnight. Detective Bishop found him standing alone beside the river at 2 a.m. Snow drifted lightly through darkness while floodlights from excavation crews glowed farther downstream like distant fire. William looked broken beyond words. He listened to her scream. He whispered without turning around. Bishop said nothing. He had 8 days. The older man's voice cracked violently. 8 days to let my little girl go home. For several seconds only the river moved beneath the bridge. Then William asked the question haunting all of Ash Creek now. How many others? Bishop looked toward the excavation lights reflecting across Blackwater. And for the first time since reopening Clara Whitmore's case, she realized the honest answer terrified her more than anything else. They still didn't know. By February 2020, Blackwater River no longer looked like part of a quiet rural town. It looked like a war zone. Floodlights burned through the night while excavation tents stretched across frozen riverbanks beneath constant police patrols. FBI profilers walked muddy trenches beside forensic anthropologists carrying bone fragments in sealed containers. News helicopters hovered overhead so often residents stopped noticing the sound entirely. Ash Creek became synonymous with horror nationwide. Another American town discovering monsters had lived beside them unnoticed for decades. And the bodies kept coming. 7 victims recovered. Then 9. Then 11. Some buried shallow beneath mud near the river. Others hidden farther into the woods beneath collapsed animal traps and rotted timber. Most were young women between 16 and 25 years old. Some identified through dental records or surviving family DNA. Others remained nameless. Jane Doe's forgotten by everyone except the men who buried them. Detective Mara Bishop barely slept anymore. Coffee and adrenaline carried her through endless interviews, excavation briefings, and media pressure while the task force expanded beyond anything the county had resources to handle alone. Every recovered victim created another family shattered by delayed grief. Another mother watching forensic sketches on television, praying and dreading recognition simultaneously. Then investigators uncovered the videotapes. The discovery happened inside Raymond Cutter's abandoned hunting cabin during a secondary forensic sweep. One technician noticed slight elevation differences beneath loose floorboards near the fireplace. Excavation revealed a narrow compartment sealed carefully against moisture. Inside sat 12 VHS tapes wrapped in plastic, labeled only by dates: 1977, 1978, 1979, 1980. The years alone were enough to stop the room cold. Technicians transported the tapes directly to state forensic labs while Bishop waited through 20 unbearable hours before restoration teams confirmed playback was possible. Then the footage began. The first tape showed Raymond Cutter drunk and shirtless inside the hunting cabin, laughing directly at the camera while music played loudly in the background. Ethan Vale sat nearby cleaning mud from boots without acknowledging the recording. Nothing criminal initially. Just two men drinking during a hunting weekend sometime in 1977. Then a girl appeared briefly behind them, young, terrified, bound at the wrists. The room inside the forensic lab went silent instantly. Bishop felt every muscle tighten as technicians continued playback. The girl tried speaking through visible tears before Raymond shoved her violently out of frame while laughing. Ethan never looked up from the boots. Then the tape cut abruptly to static. The second tape was worse. A brunette later identified as Lena Brooks sat restrained against a wall inside the hidden garage room, crying, pleading to go home. Raymond circled her holding the camera while Ethan's voice drifted from somewhere off-screen telling him to turn it off already. But he never stopped filming. Over and over, investigators watched the same pattern emerge. Abduction, captivity, fear. Two men treating terrified women like objects preserved on videotape for private entertainment. Some footage became too disturbing even for experienced investigators to continue without breaks. One federal agent reportedly walked outside after viewing tape 4 and vomited beside the parking lot before refusing reassignment back into the case entirely. Then came tape 8, dated January 1981. Clara Whitmore, alive. The room inside the lab froze completely. Clara sat wrapped in a blanket inside the hidden garage room, bruised but conscious, staring directly toward the camera with exhausted terror hollowing out her face. Ethan stood partially visible near the doorway smoking while Raymond asked Clara questions from behind the lens. "What's your daddy gonna do when nobody finds you?" Clara said nothing. Raymond laughed. Then Ethan spoke quietly from off-screen. "Enough." The word carried tension investigators had not heard previously. Raymond ignored him. "Tell the camera how pretty you looked screaming." Ethan repeated himself louder this time. "I said enough." The tape ended abruptly seconds later. Bishop replayed the footage repeatedly afterward, searching for details hidden beneath the horror. Every movement mattered now. Every tone of voice. Every interaction between Ethan and Raymond. Because something had changed by 1981. The earlier tapes showed Ethan passive, detached, watching violence without intervention. But during Clara's captivity, tension existed between the two men. Conflict. Then forensic audio enhancement uncovered something buried beneath background noise during the final seconds of tape 8. Clara whispering faintly, "He wants to let me go." The revelation detonated inside the task force. Detectives immediately re-examined Ethan Vale's confession transcripts. Again and again he described Raymond panicking after Clara threatened exposure. But what if there was more? What if Clara's death resulted not from a shared decision, but from something spiraling out of control between the two men? The distinction mattered legally, morally, psychologically. And for the first time since Ethan's arrest, Detective Bishop began wondering whether fear, genuine fear, existed somewhere beneath his decades of silence. Then another witness emerged unexpectedly. Thomas Grady, former deputy sheriff, retired since 1992, 80 years old. He arrived voluntarily at county headquarters carrying a cardboard box filled with old notes and newspaper clippings tied together with string. Bishop met him alone inside the evidence review room while excavation crews continued digging outside town. Grady looked exhausted before speaking even began. "I made a mistake," he whispered. In 1981, Grady was among the first officers responding to Clara Whitmore's disappearance. 3 days into the search, he claimed Ethan Vale approached him privately outside Rusty Nail Tavern late one night. He was drunk, Grady said. Real drunk. According to Grady, Ethan hinted Clara might still be alive somewhere near Blackwater Road. When Grady pressed for details, Ethan became agitated immediately and accused Raymond Cutter of doing something bad. "Why didn't you report that?" Bishop demanded. Grady's eyes filled with shame. "Because by morning Ethan denied everything. Said he was wasted and talking nonsense." The older deputy's voice cracked. "And Raymond Cutter was friends with half the department back then." The room went silent. Corruption. Not direct perhaps. Not organized. But enough favoritism and laziness and small-town loyalty to ignore instincts that should have been pursued aggressively. Clara Whitmore may have survived because Ethan tried indirectly to reveal the truth. And police missed it. Then Grady revealed one final detail. "He told me Raymond liked digging holes." Bishop stared instantly. "What kind of holes?" Grady looked physically sick now. "He said Raymond buried things before they were dead." The sentence lingered in the room like poison, because suddenly the Blackwater graves took on even darker implications. Some victims may not have died before burial. Meanwhile, inside county jail, Ethan Vale's mental state deteriorated rapidly after learning investigators recovered the videotapes. Guards reported him pacing constantly through the night, muttering Clara's name repeatedly beneath his breath. Twice he requested protective custody, claiming Raymond wouldn't forgive him despite Raymond being dead for over 25 years. Then Ethan finally asked to speak again, this time without lawyers, without conditions. Detective Bishop entered the interrogation room shortly after midnight carrying photographs recovered from tape 8. Clara wrapped in the blanket. Ethan visible near the doorway. The hidden room. Ethan looked older than ever now. Not 70 years old. Ancient. "You heard her," Bishop said quietly. Ethan nodded weakly. "She thought you might let her go." For several seconds he said nothing. Then tears formed suddenly in his eyes. First time anyone had seen him cry since arrest. "She reminded me of my daughter," he whispered. The statement hit Bishop like a slap. Ethan had a daughter who died in infancy back in 1972. She stared at him carefully. "What happened the night Clara died?" Ethan's breathing turned uneven. "Raymond lost control because he thought she'd tell police everything." "And you?" Silence. Then Ethan whispered the words that changed the case again. "I tried to stop him." The room seemed to freeze completely, because somewhere buried beneath decades of evil, bodies, videotapes, and terror, Detective Mara Bishop suddenly glimpsed the possibility of something almost impossible. Not innocence, never innocence, but regret. "I tried to stop him." Detective Mara Bishop stared across the interrogation table while the words settled heavily between them. Outside the reinforced windows, snow drifted across Ash Creek in slow spirals beneath floodlights still illuminating the Blackwater excavation site miles away. The town had stopped sleeping weeks earlier. Every day uncovered another grave, another videotape, another missing girl dragged back into public memory after decades buried beneath silence. And now Ethan Vale was crying. Not dramatically, not like a man performing innocence. Quietly, almost with confusion himself, as though he spent 40 years trying unsuccessfully to understand the monster he became standing beside Raymond Cutter. Bishop kept her expression controlled. "You expect me to believe that?" Ethan rubbed trembling hands across his face slowly. "No." "Then why say it?" Another long silence followed. "Because truth inside the Bennett-style darkness of long-term predator cases never arrives cleanly. Monsters rarely see themselves as monsters completely. They rewrite memories. Shift blame. Hold on to tiny fragments of humanity like evidence against their own guilt." Ethan finally looked up again. "She was supposed to go home." The sentence landed hard. Bishop leaned forward. "Walk me through that night." Ethan closed his eyes. And for the first time since his arrest, he began speaking without hesitation. January 25, 1981. Clara had been trapped beneath the garage for 8 days by then. Raymond wanted to move her. He believed police were getting too close after volunteers searched near Blackwater Road repeatedly. Ethan argued they should let Clara go somewhere far away instead. Bus station. Highway. Anywhere. But Raymond refused. He liked control, Ethan whispered. Once he had somebody scared, he didn't want to lose that feeling. Bishop listened carefully while recording equipment hummed softly between them. According to Ethan, Raymond became increasingly unstable during the final days of Clara's captivity. Drinking constantly. Sleeping barely at all. Carrying a revolver everywhere. Clara kept threatening to identify both men if released, and Raymond convinced himself prison was inevitable unless she disappeared permanently. Then came the final argument. Raymond wanted to kill her immediately. Ethan resisted, not because he suddenly developed morality. Not because he cared enough to free Clara completely, because reality was finally crashing through the fantasy. This was no longer violent games, drunken assaults, or isolated attacks hidden beside highways. Clara Whitmore was the most famous missing girl in state history by then. Television helicopters flew over Ash Creek daily. FBI consultants advised local police. Search parties crossed fields less than half a mile from the garage. Panic entered the system. And panic destroys predators. We fought, Ethan admitted quietly. How bad? I hit him. Bishop froze instantly. You assaulted Raymond? Ethan nodded weakly. Said he'd lost his damn mind. The room felt suddenly smaller. Because until now investigators viewed Ethan and Raymond as equal partners moving through years of violence together. But the deeper Ethan spoke, the more their relationship resembled something uglier and psychologically tangled. Raymond enjoyed domination openly. Ethan followed, watched, participated, enabled. But somewhere beneath that loyalty, fear existed too. Fear of Raymond, fear of exposure, fear of what the violence kept becoming. Then Ethan described the moment Clara died. And the entire case shifted again. According to Ethan, he left the hidden room briefly during the argument to retrieve alcohol from upstairs. When he returned minutes later, Raymond was kneeling over Clara holding both hands tightly around her throat. She wasn't moving anymore, Ethan whispered. Bishop felt nausea rise instantly. What did you do? I pulled him off her. Was she alive? Ethan's eyes filled again. Barely. The room went silent except for the distant hum of fluorescent lights overhead. She tried breathing, Ethan continued softly. Couldn't get air. Bishop struggled to keep emotion from her voice. And you didn't call an ambulance? Ethan stared at the table. No, because by then survival mattered more than Clara's life. Two men standing over a dying 17-year-old girl beneath a garage while an entire town searched desperately for her outside. Then Ethan revealed the detail that truly shattered Detective Bishop. Clara remained conscious briefly after the attack. She looked right at me, Ethan whispered. The old mechanic's breathing became uneven now. Like she knew. Knew what? That I could still help her. Bishop felt something cold twist inside her chest. What did she say? Ethan swallowed hard. She asked for her mother. The interrogation room disappeared emotionally for several seconds after that. Bishop could almost see it, the terrified teenager bruised and suffocating beneath concrete walls while two predators panicked around her. Somewhere upstairs cars passed normally through Ash Creek. Families watched television. Search volunteers organized maps and flashlights believing Clara might still be rescued alive. But underground, time was already running out. How did Raymond react afterward? Bishop asked carefully. Ethan's face hardened again slightly. He started digging immediately. No hesitation. No grief. No shock. Just logistics. The sentence revealed more about Raymond Cutter than any psychological profile ever could. Bishop pressed harder. Where? Near the river. Blackwater? Ethan nodded once. Then another silence settled over the room before Ethan whispered something unexpected. He made me help carry her. Bishop stared at him. She was dead? A pause. Then Ethan answered so softly she almost missed it. I think so. Think, not know. The distinction crawled under Bishop's skin immediately, because Thomas Grady's old statement returned suddenly in full force. Raymond liked burying things before they were dead. The possibility sickened her. Clara Whitmore may have still been alive while transported toward Blackwater River. Then Ethan described the burial. Heavy snowfall. Frozen mud. Raymond digging frantically beneath flashlight beams while Ethan stood watch near the truck. Clara wrapped in industrial blankets from the garage. Her silver necklace removed because Raymond believed jewelry could later identify remains. And then came the sentence Detective Bishop would never forget for the rest of her life. She moved once in the grave. The room stopped breathing. Bishop felt pure horror flood through her body. What? Ethan's eyes remained locked downward now. Her arm twitched after we covered her. The words hit like physical violence. Bishop pushed away from the table suddenly, unable to remain still anymore. Rage moved through her so hard she nearly overturned the chair. You buried her alive? Ethan began crying openly. I didn't know what to do. The answer disgusted her instantly. Not confusion, cowardice. Clara Whitmore died because two grown men feared prison more than they valued human life. Then Ethan whispered something else. I hear her sometimes. Bishop looked back slowly. What does that mean? At night. His voice trembled now, scratching. The room felt ice cold. Ever since they found the body, for the first time since reopening the case, Detective Mara Bishop genuinely believed Ethan Vale was haunted. Not metaphorically. Not dramatically. Psychologically destroyed by 40 years of guilt he could never fully bury beneath alcohol and routine and small-town normalcy. But guilt changes nothing for the dead. Meanwhile, outside the jailhouse, another storm was approaching Ash Creek. Because forensic analysts reviewing the videotapes had uncovered additional audio buried beneath static on tape 8. Voices in the background during Clara's captivity. Male voices not matching Ethan or Raymond. 3 separate unidentified speakers. The revelation detonated through the task force instantly. There were others. Maybe not direct participants in murder. Maybe not. But enough to prove Ethan Vale and Raymond Cutter did not operate entirely alone across those years. The nightmare underneath Ash Creek was bigger than anyone imagined. And somewhere beyond the 11 bodies already recovered beside Blackwater River, investigators now feared even more graves were still waiting beneath the frozen earth. The moment investigators confirmed additional male voices existed on the videotapes, fear spread through Ash Creek in an entirely new direction. Until then, people could still comfort themselves with a simple narrative. 2 monsters. 2 dead souls feeding off violence together while the rest of the town remained blind. Horrifying, but contained. Now that illusion collapsed. Because if other men appeared in those recordings, then somebody else knew. Maybe they participated. Maybe they watched. Maybe they helped bury evidence afterward and spent 40 years pretending innocence beside neighbors who trusted them completely. The possibility poisoned the town overnight. Rumors exploded everywhere. Retired deputies, bartenders, mechanics, hunting buddies. Men who drank with Ethan and Raymond at Rusty Nail Tavern suddenly found themselves whispered about in grocery stores and church parking lots. Anonymous accusations flooded police tip lines faster than investigators could process them. And Detective Mara Bishop felt the case slipping toward chaos. The audio enhancement team worked non-stop inside the state forensic lab trying to isolate the unidentified voices buried beneath the static on tape 8. Hours of distortion. Broken frequencies. Old recording damage. But eventually one phrase emerged clearly enough to understand. She's still breathing. A second male voice answered immediately afterward. Then finish it. The room inside the lab went silent, because neither speaker matched Ethan or Raymond. 2 additional voices present during Clara Whitmore's final hours. The investigation detonated again. Federal agents joined the task force permanently while prosecutors quietly began preparing for the possibility of conspiracy charges involving living accomplices. Bishop reopened dozens of old witness statements searching for men consistently appearing around Ethan and Raymond during the late 70s and early 80s. 3 names surfaced repeatedly. Walter Griggs, Leon Mercer, Dale Hennessy, all long-time drinking companions, all present in photographs recovered from the hunting cabin, and all still alive. Search warrants hit simultaneously before sunrise 3 days later. Walter Griggs, 74 years old, suffered a heart attack when state investigators entered his farmhouse outside Ash Creek. He survived long enough to reach intensive care but refused questioning entirely afterward. Leon Mercer disappeared before deputies arrived at his trailer. Gone. Truck abandoned near the state line 20 hours later. No sign of him anywhere. And Dale Hennessy made the biggest mistake. He talked. Detective Bishop interrogated him inside county headquarters while news crews crowded outside beneath freezing rain. Dale looked terrified from the moment he entered the room. 68 years old. Former truck driver. Alcoholic, hands shaking uncontrollably. "I never touched those girls," he whispered before Bishop even sat down. The sentence alone told her everything. "You knew about them." Dale stared at the table silently. Then tears formed instantly. "Jesus Christ, we thought Raymond buried all that." Bishop leaned forward slowly. "How many people knew?" Dale's breathing sharpened. "Not knew exactly." "Then explain." Dale described drunken hunting weekends at Raymond Cutter's cabin throughout the late 70s. Men drinking heavily. Gambling. Occasionally arriving to find young women inside the cabin or garage whom Raymond described as runaways or girls looking for trouble. Nobody asked questions. Nobody wanted answers. Because predators survive easiest inside cultures where men mistake silence for loyalty. Then Dale revealed the detail that froze Bishop completely. He saw Clara alive. The room seemed to contract inward immediately. When, few days after she disappeared, Dale's voice cracked violently. "Raymond brought me to the garage because he needed help moving supplies. I heard crying downstairs." Bishop felt rage rising already. "You went down there?" Dale nodded weakly. "She was tied up." Every sentence sounded worse than the last. "What did Raymond say?" Dale looked physically sick now. "He said if I opened my mouth, I'd end up beside her." The threat worked. Dale never contacted police, never warned anyone, never anonymously tipped investigators during the largest missing person search in state history. Instead, he spent 40 years drinking beside the men who buried Clara Whitmore beneath Blackwater River. Then Bishop played the enhanced tape audio for him. "She's still breathing." Dale's face turned white instantly. "That's Walter," he whispered. Bishop's pulse accelerated. "You're sure?" "I'd know that voice anywhere." "And the second man?" Dale closed his eyes, then whispered the answer. "Leon Mercer." The room went silent, because suddenly Clara's death scene no longer involved two predators spiraling into panic. It involved 4 men. 4, maybe more. The horror beneath Ash Creek expanded again. Then Dale said something that changed the investigation completely. "They weren't there to help kill her." Bishop stared carefully. "What do you mean?" "Raymond called them after." "After what?" "After he choked her." Dale rubbed trembling hands together hard enough to redden the skin. "He panicked because he thought Ethan might go to police." The statement hit Bishop like electricity. "Ethan wanted to confess." Dale hesitated. "I think he wanted out." For the first time since Clara's remains surfaced, Detective Mara Bishop began seeing Ethan Vale differently. Not sympathetically. Never sympathetically, but more clearly. Weak men often follow stronger monsters until reality finally becomes unbearable. By 1981, Raymond Cutter's violence had escalated beyond control while Ethan drifted deeper into fear and dependency he no longer understood how to escape. Then Clara disappeared, and everything broke apart. According to Dale, Raymond summoned Walter and Leon to help bury the body because he no longer trusted Ethan emotionally. The men arrived near dawn after heavy snowfall. Clara already wrapped in blankets near the truck. And then came the sentence that turned Bishop's blood cold. "She made a noise while we carried her." The room stopped breathing. Dale began sobbing openly. "I swear to God I thought she was dead." Bishop felt nausea hit instantly. "Did anyone check?" "No." "Why not?" "Because Raymond had the gun." Silence consumed the room after that. Clara Whitmore may have been buried alive in front of 4 grown men too terrified or evil or cowardly to stop what was happening. Then Dale whispered the final detail. "Ethan kept saying this wasn't supposed to happen." The phrase lingered heavily. "Not supposed to happen." As if somewhere inside the darkness, Ethan still clung to the fantasy that he wasn't truly like Raymond. But he carried Clara to the grave anyway. Meanwhile, the hunt for Leon Mercer intensified nationwide after authorities publicly named him as a material witness connected to the Blackwater murders. His face flooded television broadcasts, highway alerts, gas station bulletins. Social media exploded with sightings from 3 different states. Then Leon called the task force himself. The call came at 2:17 a.m. Disposable cell phone. Heavy breathing. Detective Bishop answered personally. "You should have left it buried," Leon whispered. "Where are you? You think Ethan told you everything?" Bishop signaled technicians tracing the line immediately. "What else happened that night?" Silence crackled through the connection. Then Leon laughed nervously. "You still haven't found the children." The sentence hit like a bomb. Bishop froze. "What children?" But the line disconnected instantly. Trace failed. Gone. Inside task force headquarters, the room descended into stunned silence after replaying the recording. Children, plural. Nobody spoke for nearly 20 seconds. Because until that moment investigators believed the Blackwater killings targeted young women almost exclusively. Now another possibility emerged. Something even worse buried beneath decades of fear and missing persons reports. Then forensic analysts reviewing unidentified remains from the riverbank excavation delivered devastating confirmation. One recently recovered skeleton belonged to a child approximately 11 years old. And suddenly Detective Mara Bishop realized Ash Creek had not uncovered the full nightmare yet. Not even close. The identification of the child victim shattered whatever emotional stability remained inside the Blackwater task force. 11 years old. Too young to drive. Too young to disappear voluntarily. Too young to become another set of bones lifted from frozen earth beneath floodlights while reporters circled overhead. Detective Mara Bishop stood inside the forensic lab staring through observation glass at the tiny skeleton laid carefully across a stainless steel examination table. The size alone felt unbearable. Small ribs. Small hands. A single pink barrette recovered beside the remains sealed inside an evidence bag like some final insult from history itself. The anthropologist spoke quietly behind her. Female. Likely between 10 and 12. Bishop closed her eyes briefly. For weeks investigators prepared themselves mentally for more young women. Not children. Never children. Then came the identification. Emily Dawson, missing since October 1976. Last seen walking home from a church carnival 40 miles outside Ash Creek. The case had devastated the state at the time. Thousands searched for her. National news coverage lasted weeks. Psychics called hotlines claiming visions. Her parents died years ago, never learning what happened to their daughter. Now, after 44 years underground beside Blackwater River, Emily finally came home in a body bag. Ash Creek broke again. The discovery crossed a psychological line even hardened investigators struggled to process. Angry crowds gathered outside county jail screaming death threats toward Ethan Vale. Someone fired gunshots into Raymond Cutter's abandoned salvage yard during the night. Churches held emergency vigils while local schools cancelled extracurricular activities after terrified parents flooded administrators with calls. And Detective Mara Bishop could not stop thinking about Leon Mercer's warning. You still haven't found the children. Plural. Which meant Emily Dawson was likely not the only child victim buried beneath the Blackwater nightmare. The excavation zone expanded immediately. Federal cadaver teams arrived with ground-penetrating radar equipment capable of scanning deep burial patterns across several miles surrounding the river. Every inch of soil became suspect now. Investigators moved carefully through woods and abandoned farmland searching for disturbances hidden beneath decades of erosion and growth. Then another child grave surfaced. Male. Approximately 9 years old. No identification initially. But buried beside the body investigators recovered a rusted toy sheriff badge. The kind handed out at county fairs during the 70s. Detective Bishop felt physically numb watching the excavation footage replay across monitors inside task force headquarters. Tiny bones emerging slowly from mud while forensic teams worked in complete silence beneath floodlights. Nobody joked anymore. Nobody even spoke unnecessarily. The entire investigation had transformed into something spiritually heavy. Like the ground itself was confessing. Meanwhile Ethan Vale deteriorated rapidly inside county jail after learning children were among the victims recovered near Blackwater River. Guards reported him vomiting repeatedly after seeing Emily Dawson's photograph on television. Twice he attempted self-harm using broken plastic utensils from meal trays. Then he demanded another interview. This time he looked destroyed completely. Gray skin, sunken eyes, hands trembling constantly. Detective Bishop entered alone carrying Emily Dawson's case file. Ethan stared at the child's school photograph for several seconds before turning away sharply. "I didn't know about her," he whispered immediately. Bishop remained standing. "You expect me to believe that?" "Yes." His voice cracked violently. "Raymond handled those alone." The sentence chilled the room instantly. "Those?" Plural again. Bishop sat slowly across from him. "How many children?" Ethan covered his face with both hands. "I don't know. Guess." Long silence. Then a whisper. "3 maybe." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "Who were they?" "I never learned all the names." Bishop felt fury rising through her chest. "You helped bury bodies for years and never learned their names?" Ethan looked up, suddenly, tears streaking down his face. "You think I can explain any of this?" No, she couldn't. Because human evil eventually reaches places language fails entirely. Then Ethan revealed something investigators had feared quietly for days. Raymond Cutter targeted children separately from the older victims. Different methods, different locations, different rituals. He said kids were easier because nobody expects danger from familiar faces. Ethan whispered. The statement poisoned the air itself. Raymond attended church events, county fairs, youth baseball games, a predator hiding in plain sight beside families who trusted him completely. Bishop forced herself forward. "Did you ever participate?" Ethan's silence answered first. Then eventually he whispered. "No." But Detective Mara Bishop no longer trusted anything coming from him fully. Not after decades of lies laid over partial truths like rotting paint. "Did you ever try stopping Raymond?" Another long pause. "I told him he was sick." The answer disgusted her instantly. Not police, not intervention, not rescue. Just words. Weak useless words from a man too cowardly to stop horror unfolding directly beside him. Then Ethan leaned forward suddenly. "There's something else." Bishop watched carefully. "What?" "Leon Mercer." The name tightened the room immediately. "What about him?" Ethan swallowed hard. "He knows where Raymond kept records." Bishop's pulse accelerated. "What kind of records?" "Everything." The single word landed heavily. "Victims, dates, locations, photographs, maybe names investigators still hadn't uncovered. Maybe proof of dozens more disappearances hidden beneath 40 years of silence." "Where are they?" Bishop demanded. "I don't know exactly. Raymond used to talk about a storm cellar near Mill Creek." The task force moved within hours. Mill Creek sat 20 miles outside Ash Creek beyond dense woodland and abandoned farmland rarely visited anymore. Search teams combed the area through freezing rain while helicopters scanned collapsed structures hidden beneath overgrowth. At 6:42 p.m., cadaver dogs alerted near an abandoned farmhouse half swallowed by dead vines and rot. Investigators discovered the storm cellar beneath collapsed kitchen flooring. And inside waited the full nightmare. Rows of boxes lined carefully along concrete shelves. Photographs, videotapes, victim clothing sealed inside plastic. Newspaper clippings. Personal jewelry. Driver's licenses. Dozens of trophies catalogued obsessively over years of violence. But the object that froze everyone stood against the far wall beneath hanging light bulbs. A map, massive, covering nearly the entire concrete surface. Colored pins marked locations across 3 states. Red, yellow, black. Each pin numbered carefully beside handwritten dates. The room fell silent instantly because every investigator understood the same thing simultaneously. Blackwater River represented only one burial site among many. Forensic teams began documenting evidence through the night while Bishop studied the map under harsh fluorescent light. Some locations corresponded with known disappearances already linked to Ethan and Raymond. Others did not even close. Then she noticed something terrifying. Several black pins included future dates beyond 1981, 1983, 1984, 1985, years after Clara Whitmore's death. years after Ethan claimed everything ended. Bishop felt cold spread slowly through her chest, because either Raymond Cutter continued killing without Ethan afterward, or Ethan Vale had lied again. Then one forensic technician called her over quietly. Recovered from a locked metal box inside the cellar was a spiral notebook wrapped tightly in oilcloth against moisture. The first page contained only one sentence written in careful block letters. If they find this, Leon knows the rest. And beneath the sentence sat a list of names investigators had never seen before. Children, teenagers, adults, 32 total. Some marked with check symbols. Others circled in red ink beside one horrifying word. Missing. 32 names. Detective Mara Bishop stared at the notebook while the storm cellar echoed with the sound of forensic cameras clicking endlessly around her. Dust drifted through flashlight beams. Mold crawled across the concrete walls. And somewhere beyond the collapsing farmhouse, news helicopters already circled the darkness above Mill Creek like vultures sensing another catastrophe. 32 names. Some connected to known disappearances. Others completely unknown. Children, teenagers, young women. A hidden catalogue of lives consumed by men who spent decades drinking in local bars and waving politely at neighbors. The investigation crossed into something almost impossible to measure emotionally after that. Federal databases lit up overnight comparing the names against missing persons records nationwide. Families from across 3 states began contacting the task force after seeing leaked details about the notebook online. Reporters described the Mill Creek cellar as a serial predator archive. Psychologists called it one of the most disturbing evidence recoveries in modern state history. But Detective Bishop focused on one thing only: Leon Mercer. Because somewhere out there, the last living witness to the full nightmare was running scared. And frightened men make mistakes. The manhunt intensified immediately. Highway patrols. Border alerts. Financial monitoring. Every known associate questioned repeatedly. Then finally, 4 days after the storm cellar discovery, a gas station clerk outside Amarillo recognized Leon from television bulletins and called police. State troopers cornered him 6 hours later inside a roadside motel. He surrendered without resistance. When detectives entered the room, Leon Mercer looked like a corpse already waiting for burial. Thin gray hair hanging over hollow eyes. Whiskey bottles scattered across stained carpet. Curtains taped shut against the outside world. And sitting on the bed beside him rested a revolver with 1 bullet loaded into the chamber. Detective Bishop flew to Texas personally for the interrogation. Leon requested only one condition before speaking: "I want immunity." The prosecutors refused immediately. So Leon started laughing, not confidently, broken. The sound of a man crushed beneath 40 years of fear, finally realizing there was nowhere left to run. "You people still don't understand," he whispered. Bishop sat across from him inside the interrogation room while cameras recorded every second. "Then help me understand." Leon rubbed both hands across his face slowly. "Raymond wasn't the worst one." The sentence chilled the room instantly. Bishop leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Leon looked directly at her. There were buyers. Silence detonated. The room stopped breathing. Because suddenly the nightmare beneath Ash Creek twisted into something even darker than serial murder. Trafficking. Organized exploitation. Children and young women exchanged between predators hidden behind ordinary lives. Bishop forced herself steady. Who were the buyers? Leon shook his head immediately. Some dead. Some rich. Some connected. Connected how? Sheriffs. Business owners. Politicians maybe. The implications hit like poison. For decades authorities searched isolated disappearances without realizing certain cases may have been protected deliberately from deeper investigation. Not formal conspiracy perhaps, but corruption, influence, fear. Exactly enough to keep truth buried. Then Leon started talking continuously, almost desperately, as though confession itself might somehow reduce the weight crushing him alive. According to Leon, Raymond Cutter began abducting women during the mid-70s after returning psychologically unstable from Vietnam. Violence escalated slowly. At first assaults. Then kidnappings. Then murder. Ethan Vale drifted into the crimes gradually through drinking, loyalty, and weakness he never escaped. But eventually Raymond discovered something worse. Certain men would pay, not always money, sometimes favors, protection, alcohol, vehicles, land access. Predators recognizing predators beneath the surface of small-town America. Bishop felt physically ill listening. Children too? Leon closed his eyes. Yes. The word barely emerged above a whisper. Then he revealed the truth about Clara Whitmore. Her abduction was never planned originally. Raymond targeted another girl that night near Miller's Diner. Clara intervened after seeing an argument beside the parking lot. She threatened to call police. Raymond panicked and forced her into the truck instead. Everything afterward spiraled beyond control. She wasn't meant to be there, Leon whispered. But Clara Whitmore fought harder than the others. That detail surfaced repeatedly through every confession and videotape. She screamed constantly, tried escaping repeatedly, refused to stop threatening exposure. Her resistance terrified Raymond because she transformed fantasy into reality. She became proof their world could collapse. And eventually it did. Then Leon described Clara's burial. Snow falling heavily near Blackwater River while 4 men argued beside the grave. Raymond insisted she was dead. Ethan looked unconvinced. Walter Griggs wanted to leave immediately before police spotted headlights near the bridge. And Clara moved. Not a twitch, a sound. Small, weak, but unmistakably alive. Detective Bishop felt her stomach turn. What happened? Leon began crying openly. Raymond jumped into the grave. The room disappeared emotionally for several seconds after that. He covered her mouth because she started choking on dirt. Bishop could barely speak. And the others? Leon stared downward. Nobody stopped him. Nobody. 4 grown men standing beside a teenage girl buried alive while snow erased footprints around them. The evil felt bottomless now. Then Leon whispered the final detail haunting him for 40 years. She looked right at Ethan. The sentence settled like death itself. Before Raymond finished covering the grave, Detective Mara Bishop suddenly understood why Ethan Vale spent decades drinking himself numb while living quietly beside Blackwater Road. Why he muttered Clara's name in his sleep. Why guilt hollowed him out long before investigators reopened the case. Because Clara Whitmore died believing one man there might still save her. And he failed. Leon's full confession triggered nationwide investigations afterward. Multiple arrests followed across 2 states involving retired officials and surviving associates connected to Raymond Cutter's network. Several suspects died by suicide before questioning. Others vanished completely. Excavation teams expanded searches beyond Blackwater River toward burial sites marked on the Mill Creek map. Bodies continued surfacing for months, then years. Some victims identified, others never named. The final confirmed count reached 26 dead linked directly to Raymond Cutter and Ethan Vale. But investigators privately believed the true number was much higher. Ethan Vale never reached trial. 3 weeks after Leon Mercer's confession, guards discovered him dead inside county jail just before dawn. Apparent suicide. Bedsheet tied around exposed ceiling piping. No note left behind. Only one photograph resting carefully on the floor beneath his body. Clara Whitmore's senior portrait clipped from an old newspaper. Ash Creek buried him quietly in an unmarked grave outside county limits. No funeral. No obituary. Nobody claimed the body for 6 days. But Clara Whitmore finally came home. Thousands attended her memorial service beneath cold winter skies while church bells echoed across the town that once searched desperately for her as a frightened 17-year-old girl vanished into darkness. Her mother placed Clara's silver necklace atop the casket before burial while reporters stood silently beyond the cemetery gate. Detective Mara Bishop watched from a distance beside Blackwater River afterward long after the crowds disappeared. The excavation lights were finally gone now. The flood waters moved quietly through frozen trees where bodies once slept beneath the earth unnoticed for decades. And yet the place still felt haunted. Not by ghosts, by absence, by the terrible knowledge that evil does not always arrive wearing obvious faces. Sometimes it grows quietly inside ordinary towns beside ordinary people too afraid to ask questions. Sometimes monsters drink beer with neighbors, repair engines, attend church picnics, and wave politely from front porches while unimaginable horrors rot beneath the ground nearby. Even now, years later, residents of Ash Creek still claim strange things happen near Blackwater Bridge during heavy snowfall. Dogs barking after midnight. Footsteps near the riverbank. A girl's voice calling faintly through the trees. Most dismiss the stories, but older residents know better. Because some crimes never truly disappear. They wait, buried beneath silence, until the ground finally decides to give the dead back.